All right. Congratulations on finishing your MVP for your client project. Now that that's done, it's time to share it with people. Being able to present your project is going to help you communicate why your website matters and how to use it, which are the most important things. Typically, we'd want to be asking our volunteers how do they present code at work, because presenting code is going to be different depending on your audience, if it's technical or non-technical. And um, different people have different styles to engage people. So I highly encourage you to reach out to your volunteer team in your fellowship program and ask them for advice here, because they're going to have way better advice than I do. And I guess the point here is that in virtual settings, it's a lot harder to engage an audience. And so what you'll find is that it's kind of awkward and you might not be able to see your audience, and they might not be interpreting your body language, and sometimes it's really hard to pay attention. You might have noticed that in your classes this year, and sometimes we run into technical difficulties. And so as we think about our traditional Code Nation presentation advice, we talk about body language, and sometimes that's conveyed through the tone of voice. If you can, show yourself on camera or have a picture of yourself so that your audience knows what you look like. And you want to convey excitement with your voice, and you want to share that you are excited about this project that you've worked on, and share that how proud you are of the project. You might think about asking questions to your audience or engaging them during your demo, or if you want them to ask you questions, you might want to set up expectations before you start. Because if your audience is asking you questions in the middle of your presentation, you might kind of lose your flow. But maybe you want those questions to come to you in the chat while you're presenting. And it's also important to pause and take a breath as you're presenting, because the same amount of content can take 5 minutes or 10 minutes, depending on how fast you're talking. It's also really nice to give your audience some wait time to process what you're saying. And it can be really awkward, especially if you're presenting live, because people might not be quick to speak. And you probably experienced this in your classes already, that your teachers give you lots of time to process things, and when they ask you a question, they'll pause, and it'll be a long pause. And then someone will finally answer, and it'll be such a relief. You want to keep the words on your slide to a minimum, which we maybe haven't done the best job of. Keep an eye on the chat, or if you're presenting in a group, sometimes it's helpful to have one person in the group be your chat monitor and maybe interrupt you if there are questions coming up in the chat. When you're looking at your code, you might want to zoom in so that the code is visible, and you don't need to worry about everything going perfectly. This is for practice, and you will have a very kind audience. And so there's no need to stress if you run into technical difficulties. Everyone's been there, and we're all rooting for you. You might consider filming your presentation. Sometimes that can help with the technical difficulties and the nervousness and the anxiety. But it's not necessarily as engaging, and so it's totally up to you to decide if that's something that you want to do. And you can work with your program manager to get some support with filming if that's something interesting to you. You can use Zoom, or we use Screencastify, which is a free Chrome extension, and we'll let you record up to 5 minutes for free, so you can break your presentation up into 2 sections. It also helps with the awkwardness of your 10-minute presentation was only 3 minutes. Oh no, what do you do? So those are just some suggestions. We do want you to have about 6 minutes of a presentation with time for question and answers afterwards. And then you want to use slides to support you as you're presenting. Introduce yourselves, describe the problem that your project addresses, talk about how your project works, especially the technical bits like the API calls that you're doing and how you're displaying those API calls on the page. What would you like to add in the future? Because this is an MVP, we want to know what your future vision is for this work. What was really challenging to you and what was interesting. And then we do want you to have that live demo, which is really fun. Here's an example of how you might introduce yourself. These are the kinds of things that your audience is going to be interested in knowing about you. Your name, where you go to school, maybe a fun fact about yourself. What kind of careers are you thinking about pursuing after Code Nation? Why did you join Code Nation? Who is your project designed for? And why you decided to work on it. And so now you're going to get a chance to script out your introductions, and you can start working on your presentation outline. The slide deck will really help you with that. And that's it. Here are just a few reminders as you're working on that presentation, but good luck, fellows.